I compare my illness to being in the water because the ocean is in a constant state of flux. It's always changing, the tides are changing, the tides are moving in and out, there's highs and lows. And in many ways that's how my illness is. It's in a constant state of flux, and my mental health can be in a downward spiral, or it can be stable, or it can be picking up. Just before my 16th birthday, I was just incredibly run down. I had this whole body fatigue, so it wasn't just, being a bit tired, yawning a little bit. It just felt like my whole body had this weight in it, and I was mentally fatigued, physically fatigued. And then I started experiencing, around the time of my 16th birthday, these waves of devastation, and it would feel as if somebody had called me to tell me my whole family was dead.
Then came the self-harm, the sex, drugs and self-destructive behaviour, as well as psychotic delusions and hallucinations.
The peak of my illness so far was the suicidal point that I arrived at in 2011. My entire world closed in on me. And for a long time, my sister's face was what kept bringing me back from the edge. And that was really the edge of the fine line between life and death. I then arrived at a point where pain that I was feeling finally overrode the guilt that I had for leaving my sister, and I couldn't see her face anymore. That was my lowest point.
Come here, Lou. Come on.
The confusion and devastation were shared by Sophie's family, especially sister Georgia and mother Lindy.
I think the most challenging part of her illness was the fear, was living with the fear for so long that she was going to take it one step further and take a life. And that's a terrifying thing. She's 13 then, and then this one, it's crossing the finish line at Log Reef, Nippers. It's me and Georgia watching on. I think you're about 8 or 9 then. And this is them coming out of the surf at Log Reef doing nippers.
Following her suicide attempt in 2011, Sophie was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. Since then, she's been admitted a further 5 times.
So when I have been in hospital, art therapy is one thing that I have really benefited from. And so when I relapsed in June of this year, I had a psychotic episode, and I felt like my skin was shrinking and that Mum and Georgia were conspiring against me. And I painted this when I was admitted, and I think it really portrays the kind of mess of emotion that I was experiencing, and there's a real sadness in it. But then I painted this as I came home, and I think the colours are much softer, nicer, much more pleasant, and I was really calm by this point. I had responded really well to an antipsychotic, and the symptoms had gone away, and I just felt calm. It's this really, really amazing sense of relief.
It wasn't until she was 19, 3 years after her first symptoms, that Sophie was diagnosed with bipolar I disorder, an illness affecting 1 in 200 Australians. She soon began writing about her experience to encourage others to seek help.
Running Like China, the story is so important because mental illness affects so many people. We do need to talk about this is because suicide is the leading cause of death for young Australians, and that's such an awful statistic because it is avoidable when we talk to people, and intervention is possible, and there is treatment out there that works. And if my book can open up this conversation, if Running Like China can get people talking, then I think it has the potential to save lives.
So you'll have a nice young group of students, so between years 9 and 10.
Sophie also volunteers for Batia, a charity that trains young Australians with mental illness to speak at schools and universities.
And it's quite empowering, actually, for young people to hear another person's story, because by hearing somebody that's relatable to them, they're able to connect to them, and it's somebody that's relevant to that young person. And what that allows them to really do is to really soak up that message of hope, that hope actually exists, and that they can do something about their own well-being.
1 in 4 young Australians live with a mental disorder, and youth suicide is the leading cause of death for 15 to 24-year-olds. While biological and developmental factors contribute to the majority of mental illness, bipolar disorder is mainly a genetic condition. Professor Gordon Parker is a psychiatrist and founder of the Black Dog Institute.
The main treatment is medication. So the most important ones are mood stabilisers. The second is education. People need to be informed about the condition and its management. The third thing is mood charting. So the person should chart their highs and their lows.
Back to Delhi!
While there's no cure for bipolar, current treatment programs that combine medication and psychotherapy keep the extreme mood swings under control for 70 to 90% of patients. Sophie is also a firm believer in eating well to stay well.
It is the best green drink in the country.
It's really good. It's really good. So to manage my bipolar, I eat really well. I eat healthy, wholesome foods. I've actually cut out wheat and dairy, and that's to help me metabolize my medication easier. I surf 3 to 4 times a week. I go to the gym twice a week. I walk around the headland with my mum and our dog almost every day. So I'm doing lots of exercise. I also get good hours sleep every night. That's one thing that I know that really can trigger a manic episode or end up leaving me really fatigued and depressed. I also avoid drugs and alcohol completely. So all those things that I do, all the healthy lifestyle practices, they mean that I'm at a point where suicidal thoughts are very, very rare to come across my mind, and I haven't self-harmed in over 2.5 years. My illness doesn't define me. I see it as just one tiny part of who I am, and it's just something that is there and I will deal with it. It's just how I live my life, and it's something then that I can not only live with but also thrive in spite of.